Eagles Entertainment.
What's up, guys? Jake Elliott here. Just want to check in with you guys during these difficult times. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone working in healthcare, working at grocery stores, everyone providing all the essentials that we need right now. For everyone else out there, I cannot stress the importance enough of staying home. If you need to go out and get essentials, practice good social distancing. Doing these simple things is really saving lives right now. Go Birds, wash your hands, and stay safe.
It's Monday. Welcome, Eagles everywhere, to the Eagles Insider Podcast presented by Lincoln Financial Group. Eagles Insider Dave Spadaro with you. And yes, we're 2.5 weeks away from an NFL draft, which will be played out right in front of us on television. Real sports, drama, decision-making, a very important time. The Eagles with 8 draft picks, including number 21 overall. So we're kind of in that between phase. Free agency largely done. Everyone looking at the NFL draft. Should be very interesting. The Eagles, of course, have addressed defense for the most part in free agency. How many of those 8 draft picks will the Eagles use on the offensive side of the ball? Maybe we will get some clues here in just a bit in this Eagles Insider Podcast presented by Lincoln Financial Group. A bit later in the show, I'll have Fran Duffy and Chris McPherson in. We'll talk about the linebacker group. A forgotten group? No. The Eagles have added Jatavius Brown. But you know, they just haven't used a lot of resources with that position group. We'll talk about that. And we'll speculate at what point in the draft might the Eagles look at linebacker. We'll also meet new nickel cornerback Nickell Robey-Coleman, and he'll dig deep into what you actually have to do to be successful inside as a cornerback rather than play on the outside. Maybe a lot more complicated than you think. We begin this Eagles Insider Podcast with some one-on-one time. Head coach Doug Pederson. I spoke to him last week. This is part 1 of 2 parts, as Doug Pederson, like the rest of the Philadelphia Eagles and the NFL and most of the world, frankly, is working from home. It is my pleasure on this Wednesday to be joined by the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, Doug Pederson. Doug, where are you right now? Is this the Doug Pederson man cave we're looking at here?
It's well, first of all, Dave, thanks for having me on your show, and look forward to talking to you for the next few minutes. But I'm at home. This is an upstairs bedroom. Our oldest son Drew is not here. He's back in Cincinnati and doing his online courses there at the university. And so I've taken over his room and made this into my own office, because our actual office at the house, our high school student Joel is using that to finish some of his schooling right now. So we're kind of all over the place a little bit.
Doug, how are you holding up? How's the family holding up? Everybody, first of all, being safe and healthy, and everything's good on the Pederson end?
Yeah, everything is really good. Obviously we're in uncertain times right now, some unprecedented times, but we're doing really good. We're obviously practicing social distancing. We're limiting ourselves from, going to the grocery store just a few times a week, and really just sort of, hunkering down and getting a lot of work done, obviously, here at the house, and spending a lot of family time. So it's been good.
Doug, how has it impacted the professional side of things here? Take us inside of your day. What are you able to do with this lack of proximity to your personnel department and to your scouting staff and to your coaching staff as well?
Well, obviously the thing that we've really learned is the virtual being able to do this, to have sort of FaceTime meetings, to use Microsoft Teams, to still conduct business sort of as usual without being face to face in the same room. And technology is an amazing thing, and my hat's off to our IT department, to our video department, obviously on the football side, and how they've brought all of this together. And so really for me, it's about, once I get up in the morning, usually go down and try to get a workout in, in the basement. We have a Peloton down there, so and a few free weights. So try to get a little workout in before my day starts, and then share a cup of coffee with my wife Jeannie, and then upstairs and begin my day. Continuing to look at college, players preparing for the draft, speaking to college coaches. We're kind of having to do that sort of old school with our scouts being off the road right now, and pro days being canceled. So a lot of time on the phone talking with college coaches, just preparing for the draft as if I'm right there at NovaCare in my office.
With your coaching staff, are you able to conduct and try to keep the day as normally as you would? I mean, do you have positional meetings and current roster breakdowns and plan out your X's and O's for hopefully the spring and for training camp also?
Yeah, and one of the things that when this pandemic hit a few weeks ago and we made the decision to close NovaCare, we'd kind of prepared, those last few days on what to get done. And so, for me, it's still, picking up the phone and calling my staff or going through Microsoft Teams and having meetings, FaceTime on the phone, or just, text messaging, just to stay in contact, just checking in on them, and seeing how they're doing. Because I do have a few coaches that went back home, to where their families are. And so, want to make sure that they're safe, but, still conducting business as usual. And, we just got to do it this way. We got to do it through a screen, and again, can't do it face to face, but we're able to get things done, connect to our computers in our office. We're on Exos. We've got ProStar available to us. So everything is right here. Just, work from home.
Doug, the team has been really active here in free agency. Before we get into that, I wondered from a stay-at-home standpoint, Doug Pederson, what kind of talents have emerged during this time? Are you now the guy in charge of cooking dinner? What have you learned about yourself kind of during this very difficult period?
I think one of the biggest things just being resourceful. Being at home as much as I have been. My wife still does all the cooking and preparing all the meals, and I love to do breakfast, and that's kind of my deal. When I'm home is cooking breakfast. But I think being resourceful with the things that we have in and around the home. We're making use of just about everything and every space, and taking advantage of that, and then of course just spending the quality time. Our youngest son Joel and then my wife, just spending time with them and taking a break from the reality of what's going on in our world right now, and just enjoying that family time.
Do you have any suggestions for Eagles fans? Any good television shows or playlists? Anything you can recommend?
Yeah, I wrote down a couple of things. I figured that question would come up. So my wife and I have we just finished watching Tiger King, on Netflix the other day. Just finished watching that. We also watched Little Fires. That's a Reese Witherspoon, and that's on Hulu. And then of course on Apple TV, we just finished the morning show again, another Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Aniston series. So those are some good ones that we've done here in the past few weeks.
I've got a suggestion for you, and it actually involves some sports. On Netflix, I recommend it highly. It is called The English Game, and it's a story about the birth of the FA Cup in Britain, Great Britain. So there's some sports element to it. It's a great story about the town. I highly recommend it. All right, take that one and give it a shot.
I just wrote that one down, and there's another one that was brought to my attention too this week. It's actually on HBO. It's with Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. I believe it's The Art of Coaching, and it's something I want to take a look at as well. I hear that's a really good sort of documentary on that. On those two gentlemen as well, two obviously icons in our profession.
Doug, let's talk about football. A very busy free agency period for the Eagles. Your view of everything that happened looks like the defense is in a lot better shape than it was prior to March 18th.
Yeah, obviously, each year free agency comes, and we know that first thing is we'd love to be able to sign all our guys back. I mean, that's first and foremost. These guys have, helped us win a championship. Some of them put us in position to get in the postseason the last 2 years. So that's the first goal. We try to we try to sign our own. But I think that it's obviously not realistic because I being a former player and that player side in me is like, hey, go get what you can, out there. And if you get an opportunity, somewhere to become a starter, I think it's a great opportunity for our own players. But at the same time, we're going to lose guys, but at the same time, we've got to be active. Howie's been active, with free agency. We've signed, we feel obviously defensive players, but guys that are really going to help us step in, compete, give us value. And these are really good players, and we're excited about that. And then, of course, we still have the draft coming up. But we have been active in free agency. We've been that way. My 5 years now, going on my 5th year. With the Eagles. So it's something that I'm excited to get these guys in the building at some point and really get to know them and see how they can help our team.
Doug, can you talk about Darius Slay and talk about Javon Hargrave? And it seems like, would you consider them kind of like blue chippy talents, very high level players who should significantly upgrade things on the defensive side?
Yeah, Darius, he's a really good corner. He's been he's a veteran player, 7-year vet, going on 8 years, I believe, and he's played a lot of football, and he's a guy that when and obviously we played him last year when Detroit came to Philly, and here's a corner that can match up with some of the top receivers that we face each and every week. So he can give us that ability. He's tough. He can run. He still, I think, still has some great years ahead of him, and so we're excited to get him. I'm excited to get him in the mix and just add again a veteran presence to a group that is still learning the game. I think we're still young at that position, obviously the corner position, and here's a veteran player that can come in and really, I think, take these guys under his wing and show them how to be pros, number one, and help us win football games. And then, Javon is he's an explosive defensive tackle. He definitely fills a spot or a role there. We're fortunate we'll get Malik back, this season, and just adds a tremendous amount of depth along with Fletcher Cox and we did sign Hassan Ridgeway again and get him back in there. So big, powerful guy up front that really helps our defensive line.
All right, many thanks to Doug Pederson. We'll have part 2 of that on Wednesday, right here. Now it's time to meet a new Eagles defensive back. That secondary has been rebuilt in this offseason, and the Eagles getting a player who is tenacious.
Brown, linebacker in coverage. Keenum.
Got to throw it out to somebody.
Time. Here comes Alexander. Tosses it away. And it looks like Robey-Coleman has picked it off again. His second today, which seals the Buffalo Bills. And a win in Los Angeles.
And he's also been very successful. With the Los Angeles Rams the last 3 seasons, Nickell Robey-Coleman became one of the best slot cornerbacks in the NFL. But the Rams backed up against the NFL's salary cap, and the Rams decided to release Robey-Coleman along with some other high-profile players, including running back Todd Gurley. The Eagles bringing in Robey-Coleman, and he will challenge for playing time and perhaps as a starter as the nickel cornerback. Let's go one-on-one, and we meet Nickell Robey-Coleman. Hey, congratulations. Welcome to Philadelphia. What's your understanding of the culture, I guess, of Philadelphia Eagles fans? I guess I like to start there because Eagles fans have such I'm going to call it a great reputation.
Yes, I heard a lot about Philly, especially about the fan base. I heard the fan base is very ecstatic and very enthusiastic. And, I played there a couple times and I, played against you guys a couple times. And y'all follow y'all team and y'all very passionate and y'all diehards. That's what I know about the fan base. And as far as the organization, it's a historical place to play in. And you definitely got to, live up to those expectations when you got on the field.
Nickell, how do you, kind of see yourself fitting in? I know it's very, very early. You haven't met the coaches. You haven't seen the playbook. But do you have a sense of what the Eagles do defensively and how your skills will translate into this defense?
Well, from a schematic standpoint, I have not dug into the playbook yet. But, I feel like I'm interchangeable to any scheme. And, I feel like, with the ability of the team that, that we have coming up this year and my skill set, I'm just, a piece of the puzzle. This team has been doing great, well before I got here. So I'm just going to put in my part, put in my role, and just do my job and do what I have to do to make the team, that much better. And, I'm competitive, and Philly is a competitive city in itself, and it's a competitive organization. So I feel like, my competitiveness and me bringing my hard hat to the table is only going to make, things, the situation that much better. And right now I can't really dig into nothing else, but, from, after I talked to, the D-back coach, it was just, he was just giving me a overall gist of how the DB room is. And I just looked at it like, if I bring my tools to the table, I'm only going to make, the room stronger.
I look at you and, the bio says 5'8", 180 pounds. You don't see a lot of players in the NFL with that size dimension. I wonder, why do you think you've been so successful in your career? And I imagine a lot of times along the way, people said you're too small to make it. I'd love to know why you think you've made it and still played for so long at such a high level.
I'm a fighter. That's what I do. I fight. I'm a fighter. I'm gritty. And I just know how to use my size to my advantage the best way that I know how to. And just being a smart football player and just always defying odds. Like I said, all my career I had to fight. Everywhere I went, I had to fight and, work my way up and just prove people. I had to constantly just prove people wrong throughout my whole career. And so I think at this point I'm just used to it. And me playing at a high level is just my preparation, the way I approach everything from a process standpoint, and just being a pure professional in the way I go about things, and that really kept me at a high level, and it kept me in the game, and I just continue to use that, and I don't change.
What are the keys to being successful in that nickel role? And for fans who maybe don't understand, what is the difference between being an outside cornerback and an inside cornerback? Does it require a different set of skills?
Yes, it does. A lot of people don't really know about the slot like that, but it's getting more popular with the way that the offenses are changing up their schemes and being more of a passing offense instead of a running offense. But what people don't know about the slot, you can go three different ways. You can go vertical, you can go in, and you can go out, and there's no sideline. Rather than playing outside, you have the sideline to your advantage, and you can play off that. You can use the sideline as your best friend, but in the slot, it's just straight space. It's all space, and so it's a different mindset. It's a different progression, the way you have to go about things, and you have to be in the nickel, in the slot. You have to be involved with the run fits, and you have certain blitzes that's called up. So you're working with all three levels of the defense, and you have to be pretty witty to be in the slot because they throw different things at you in the slot. Rather than on the outside, you can eliminate certain routes because of the sideline, and that's the gist of it. The slot is I would say it's undervalued right now at this point. But I feel like the more and more the game go on, the more and more I feel like the value for that position is going to go up. People try to ignore it, but it's definitely becoming a very important role to play, because you got guys like Tariq Hill, Cooper Kupp. You have guys like that. When you play in the slot, when those type of guys, you're in front of, that's when that slot position gets very, very important.
I wonder what your reaction was, Nikhil, to the decision that the Rams made to release you. Was it a shocking decision? Did it leave your head spinning? I mean, how did you react to it?
I knew I was coming up on the year of option year, but it kind of surprised me because of how late they made a decision. I would think a day before the actual league year they'll just pick it up, but I was prepared for anything though. Me and my people, we were just ready for anything, but I was just surprised on how late they made a decision. I would think if they didn't want to keep it, they'll probably give me a heads up a little earlier, and so I can better get things organized. But it's a business. I understand everything. It's no love lost towards the Rams. I love them as an organization. I thank them for everything. I was grateful for everything. I got some good memories there. Los Angeles is like my second home, and so it was all business, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, and we moved on, and so now I'm with the Eagles, and I'm trying to just better make a better future.
One more from the past was the play in the 2018 NFC Championship game. In perspective, I mean, what was it like to go through all that, all the attention that you got? Is that one of your good memories from playing with the Rams?
Yeah, that's one of my best memories. That one of the most highlighted memories that I went through in my whole career and with the Rams. That's something that I'll probably never forget. I'll never forget that play. I'll never forget doing that and going to the Super Bowl. That's a memory that always stick to me, and how the game changed after that will always stick with me. And that was a spectacular moment in my life. And it was around my birthday. It was on my birthday, so that was a big moment for me, and that was like a nice birthday gift, I would say.
You had to stay focused through all that. I mean, that not only that, the rest of the game, but in many weeks and maybe even last season, did you turn it into a positive in the sense that with all the attention, you still had to keep your focus on getting better and better as a football player every day?
Definitely. That was definitely a pivotal point where I was getting, a lot of different attention, good and bad, and I still had to, hone in and, put my blinders on and still be able to focus on my craft and prepare for a huge Super Bowl game. And it was a challenge, but I found a way to still maintain my focus and go out there and still put on the best performance I can put on for the people.
Last one here. Do you know any people? You have any good friends with the Philadelphia Eagles? Are you walking into a locker room that's familiar to you, or is it going to be a whole new start?
I know Jernigan, and before Nigel was my guy, but I don't think Nigel there anymore. And Darby was my boy. Corey Graham, all those guys going now. So I think the only person I know on the team right now is Timmy Jernigan. And Barwin hit me up, and we had a small chat. And Ted, the strength and conditioning coach, he was with me at LA Rams, and now we over here at Philly together.
Nikhil, I wonder, two more. What kind of workouts are you able to get in right now? I mean, how do you condition? And then after that, what are you doing to pass the time? Do you have any suggestions for good television shows or any sort of entertainment that you can help us pass the time?
Oh yeah, definitely. Right now, I got a private gym out here in Altamont Springs, Florida. So I got a private trainer at a private gym, and we get our work in there, weightlifting, and I'm also I do my speed training with a guy named Trevor. He's also he's not in Altamont Springs, but he's in Orlando. So I get my field work with him, and then I got a private gym out here that I use, and so that's what I do as far as my training. And as far as TV shows, because of the quarantine and everything and been on lockdown, I've watched every season of Gotham City. That's a good show if y'all like Batman, if y'all want to know the story of Batman. I'm on Stranger Things, Alter Carbon. I'm on that. I just got on Alter Carbon. I'm watching His Dark Materials. That's another good one. His Dark Materials, HBO or Hulu. That's on HBO or Hulu. Any other shows I'm on right now? Oh yeah, I watched Tiger King. If nobody hasn't watched the Tiger King, they need to watch the Tiger King. It's a great show. I think that's pretty much it as far as TV. Oh, Billions. Oh yeah, Billions and Ozark. The Ozark. Billions and Ozark. Well, Billions come out in May. They pushed it back, but Ozark is out. And I watched the whole third season of Ozark. If y'all haven't watched Ozark, it's a very, very good show.
You got through the whole season already? I'm only on episode 3, so don't tell me anything about that. I'll give you one more on HBO. I'm sorry, on Netflix. The English Game is really good. It's about the formation of the FA Federation Cup in soccer back in 1700 and 1800, whatever it was. It was excellent. So that's my recommendation to you.
What is it called again?
The English Game.
Okay, the English Game. Oh yeah, since you're on HBO, I heard McMillions.
Yeah, McMillions.
I heard that's a good one. So I'm gonna watch McMillions. I'm gonna watch Alter Carbon. But what's your game? What's your thing called? English Game?
The English Game on Netflix.
English Game. I'm gonna check that out.
We got time to do it. That's for sure.
Yes, we do.
Hey man, I appreciate your time very much. Can't wait to meet you at NovaCare, and stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you in Philadelphia soon.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you. Thanks so much.
No problem.
All right, let's finish up our Eagles Insider podcast presented by Lincoln Financial Group with a look at the linebacker position, Fran Duffy and Chris McPherson from Journey to the Draft podcast and Eagle Eye in the Sky. Okay, so let's talk about the linebacker position for the Eagles. It's a group that, interestingly, the Eagles really just haven't invested a whole lot in through the years. 2012, Michael Kendricks, a second-round draft pick. Nathan Gary, a fifth-round draft pick in 2017. And in free agency, Nigel Bradham signed by the Eagles, reuniting him with Jim Schwartz. Then he got a later contract. So certainly an investment there. But for the most part, not a lot of capital spent at the linebacker position. Eagles loading up on the defensive line and in the secondary through the years. So that brings us to 2020. As we take a look at that linebacker group with Fran and Chris, guys, it's really an undistinguished litany of names here. Let's talk first about the strategy the Eagles employ. Chris, they just haven't thrown a lot of draft picks and a lot of money at the linebacker positions, instead building around that group. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you have only so many resources available to you each year through draft picks and the salary cap. And obviously, Howie Roseman and the Eagles invest in the trenches, first and foremost. And this offseason, they've invested significantly in improving the secondary. You would love to have all-pro caliber players all across the board, up and down the roster, but it's just not going to be the case. And linebacker is one of the positions that they don't invest as much in. They rely on partly the scheme that Jim Schwartz runs. You rely on a veteran coach in Ken Flagel to develop the young guys and kind of go from there, understanding that you're going to win with the pass rush up front, with good coverage in the secondary, and hopefully, that's mitigated by good play by the linebackers in between.
Fran, the one addition that the Eagles have made in free agency to the linebacker positions, Jatavis Brown, who not that long ago, 4 years ago, played a lot with the Chargers, was a rising player there, was one of the leaders of the defense with the Chargers. But in the last year or so, very little playing time. Last year, less than 100 snaps on defense for the Chargers. So what kind of player are the Eagles getting in Jatavis Brown, and what role can he play for the Eagles in 2020?
Well, I think when you look at Jatavis Brown, guys, he's got the ability to impact the passing game in a number of different ways. Whether it's defending screens. I thought he did a really good job defending screens over the last couple of years, but also man-to-man coverage against backs and fullbacks and tight ends. And then underneath zone coverage, he does a nice job. But then he also brings some value as a blitzer, 4.5 sacks in his career, a bunch of QB hits as well. So he's got the ability to impact the passing game in a number of different ways. A guy that can obviously be a factor on sub-package downs, which we know most downs now are in sub-package and nickel or dime. And I think one point, too, for the last few years, Malcolm Jenkins has kind of been a linebacker, a pseudo linebacker for this defense. And so maybe you didn't need to necessarily always have to address the position because you had a guy in Malcolm that would be able to man up one-on-one against backs and tight ends. So, I think that has something to do with it as well in terms of not necessarily putting a lot of resources into that position over the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, it really is interesting how, as NFL offenses spread the field, 3 linebackers on the field at one time really doesn't happen a whole lot. Certainly, you look around the NFC East, the Dallas Cowboys have got outstanding linebackers. But what did that do for the Cowboys defensively in 2019? Anyway, let's take a look at what the Eagles have, because I still believe that in this draft, the Eagles are going to have opportunities pretty high up, maybe day 2, to add to that linebacker group. They've got Brown. They've got Gary. They've got Edwards, the second-year player from Wisconsin. They've got Duke Riley, who came from the Atlanta Falcons last year, had been drafted by the Falcons, kind of in that Camus Grugier-Hill mold. And Eagles hoping that with a full, we hope some kind of offseason here in the system, he's fully integrated into what the Eagles want to do defensively. And they talk about using Jalen Mills, using Will Parks in that Malcolm Jenkins role. Guys, is there a clear-cut, Chris, I'll start with you and then Fran, hop in. Do you have a clear-cut 1, 2, 3 across the board right now as you kind of look at this imaginary depth chart at linebacker?
You may have a 1, 2, 3, but whether it's going to be that way come week 1 of the regular season, I would say Nathan Gary was very productive for the team, played the most snaps that he had in his career last year, kind of on the rise year for him in 2019. I thought TJ Edwards showed a lot of promise late in the season, coming along as a rookie free agent at Wisconsin, and certainly seems pegged for bigger things here in 2020. If you were to say a third linebacker at the moment, there's only 3 other guys as a position group, so I think that's what would be one of the fun battles. You talked about Duke Riley a moment ago, and he kind of was in the same situation as Jatavis Brown, where with the Falcons, he was on the rise early, what was prominently featured on defense, seemed to be a featured part of their defense moving forward, and then for whatever reason, playing time dwindled, and then eventually he was traded over to the Eagles, where a fresh start, I think, rejuvenated him, and he became a special teams captain for the postseason. So certainly I agree with the sentiment that there's going to be room to add. But right now, especially with the fact that the Eagles play, majority of their snaps in sub packages at this point, you're looking at Gary coming back, and Edwards, I think, is the one who really, really should make that big year 1 to year 2 jump if he's able to, if there's any kind of off-season program to be able to help propel him forward.
Yeah, to me, I think, guys, when you talk about the linebacker spot, Dave, you mentioned, kind of comparing guys like Jatavis Brown and Duke Riley to a Camus Grugier-Hill. I look at Edwards, and I see a lot of similarities to what Nigel Bradham has brought to this Eagles defense over the last few years. Is he the best athlete in the world? No, but he's tough, he's physical, he's instinctive. He was incredibly productive over the course of his career at the University of Wisconsin. I think when you look at TJ Edwards, 5, 6, 7 years ago, that guy's getting drafted on day 2. And I just think with the way that the league is going in terms of the linebacker position, that's what caused him to be an undrafted free agent. But this is a guy that can still bring value to an NFL defense. And I thought he showed that this past season. And then when you look at this year's draft, really, really interesting value. And I think there's a lot of guys that have got that sideline-to-sideline ability, that athleticism. You know, we talk about them every single week almost on the Journey to the Draft podcast driven by AAA, but there's a number of guys that have really, really intriguing athletic skill sets, guys that really stood out at the Combine in February. So certainly a lot of names that are going to be on the radar moving forward here in just under 3 weeks.
All right, so let's play a little game here real quick. Chris, if you were to guess what round the Eagles would address the linebacker position, I will start. Chris, then you go, and then Fran, you finish it up. I say round 3, Eagles have a chance to add a linebacker. Chris?
Of course, not to cop out here, it depends how the board falls, but you look at some mock drafts, they have the Eagles taking one in round 1. And I think it depends on who's on the board at that given time. But I definitely think day 2, whether it's round 2 or 3, I think is probably the sweet spot for the Eagles most likely.
I'm going to go the next round after that. I'm going to go around 4. I just feel like, we've talked, about some of these guys. C-Mac, you mentioned this past week on the Journey to the Draft podcast. We talked about Todd McShay from ESPN. His most recent mock draft had Patrick Queen, the linebacker from LSU. We've seen Oklahoma linebacker Kenneth Murray go in round 1 of mock drafts. But ultimately, when you look at the depth at this position, a lot of really interesting players. Like I mentioned, you've got Willie Gay Jr. from Mississippi State. You've got the kid Akeem Davis-Gaither from Appalachian State. Davion Taylor from Colorado. Those 3 kids, just outstanding athleticism, but you're not talking about them in round 1. You're not talking about them in round 2. I think you get into round 3, round 4, round 5. Some of these guys are going to start shaking loose. So I think that the Eagles could get, pay some dividends in terms of patience in this draft at the linebacker spot.
Guys, it used to be in Philadelphia, Chuck Bednarik, Bill Berge, Jerry Robinson, Jeremiah Trotter. Middle linebacker was the position of respect and toughness, and it defined Eagles defenses. The times sure have changed. Thanks so much for joining me, guys, on the Eagles Insider Podcast presented by Lincoln Financial Group. Great stuff, guys. We thank you all very much for joining us here on the Eagles Insider Podcast presented by Lincoln Financial Group. Thanks to Peter Kelly and Ray Doyle for their work putting this podcast together. Thanks to all of you for joining once again. We're back on Wednesday. If you have a moment to rate us, review us, offer some suggestions, and maybe drop us a rating, that would be great. I'm Eagles Insider Dave Spadaro. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe out there. It's the Holy Week. We all hope you are being safe and sound and doing your part as we are all in this together. Thanks for joining, everyone. Have yourselves a great Eagles day, and fly, Eagles, fly.